Hello, hello.
And of course,
Hey,
very
Melinda,
excited.
look at you. How are you? Nice
Very
to see you.
excited as we tend to get, especially, well, for me, I'm always excited when we have a presenter who is many things, but educator is one of her big hats, and I always love that because I need all the tips I can get, and so it's just
So do I.
wonderful to be able to meet and to see her, and you guys are going to have a great time.
Yeah,
MJ.
of course. Of course, one of the reasons we invited Rachel was she's going to be a presenter at One Harp World, and we'll talk about that a little more in June. Rachel's going to talk about that a little bit at the beginning, but it's this wonderfully exciting conference coming up. If you don't know anything about it, then you're not on any harp lists, but you can just go into One Harp World. Hey, June, there's going to be something, Lisa, everybody, Kimberly, there's going to be something for everybody there for sure. And we were, talking about highlighting a particular, some particular people, and Rachel came to mind. I'm gonna save why for her introduction, so I don't have to say it twice. But Robin and I always chat a bit before we start, and one thing we were talking about was how much some of us or most of us have a teacher, not necessarily a harp teacher, but a teacher that has influenced us. But I think for many of us that have had harp teachers, that has been a truly remarkable, at least for me, presence in your life. And, I honestly have to say that I have talked to people, I've gotten students that have had some negative experience, but ultimately, I feel like the majority of people that I've met in the harp world have had wonderful teachers. How do you guys give me like a thumbs up or something? I don't even know what I'm saying. If you feel that way, like have you had good experiences? Yeah, well, I know you have, June.
And you can
Anybody,
throw some things in the chat,
like,
just some little
yeah, if you
tributes or shout outs. Do some shout outs
to
to
your
your
teachers, if
teacher
you want to do some shout outs, I'll
in
shout
there.
out for June because she is part of Heart Mastery. And of course, Anne Sullivan opened up a whole new world, I feel, for a lot for adult beginners. She also, of course, thank you, June. um, Also, of course, over her teaching career, taught many people. I personally, my first harp teacher was technically my mother. I was 16. That did not last very long. And she gave me the name. I remember she gave me the name Molly Hahn. You would not know Molly unless you were closer to my age. And she said, you have to call her. And I was petrified. Like, you have to call her and ask her for lessons. Like this 16-year-old. You couldn't text back then, so you couldn't remove yourself, right? Like you could before. We have a shout out to Shelley Fairplay and Robin. Wonderful. So I called her, kind of shaking, and she just turned out to be literally one of the guiding angels in my life forever until, I lost Molly a few years ago. But I mean, throughout my entire life, from the time I started taking with her, I was probably 17 by then, until I was about 60. So yeah, get some more in that chat. I love
No,
hearing
it's
about
wonderful. We've got
it's
somebody, Frances
wonderful.
Miller, Lynn Asma's mother,
Yes.
and
Lisa, did you study with Frances Miller? How about that?
yeah,
You're too
Laura
young,
Sherman.
girl. You're too young.
Lovely.
Laura
Shelley
Sherman.
Fairplay.
Yep, yep, yep.
No, we love this. And my thing when I was reading about Rachel, as we do when we are, we pick someone and someone comes, and so you're reading all these things. I was struck by, just the difference in how many years later in the world and with the different things going on. Because my teacher had, whereas Rachel was all about the healthy, and Rachel wrote how, she's not teaching her students, she's working with her students. But we grew up in the here's your music, learn it, learn it, learn it, learn it, do it, do it, do it. And no one was looking. My husband, for a couple of Christmases ago, found an old video when I was 9 years old on TV. We were playing for St. Patrick's Day, and I looked, and my hands were all like this, like just all like, yeah. And I was playing my music though, but I said, wow. And I have perfected that terrible technique for 20 years. But my teacher just went with what she heard, not necessarily saw. We were talking about a lot of those things. She was lovely, helped a lot, but nothing There was nothing about our bodies and the health and the mental and all of that stuff. You did what you were told and you just did it. And that was for me, how I grew up.
How many of you would like to see that video? Raise your hand on our next Hang with the Harp. Oh, I see
Ah,
a lot of
he would
hands up.
love it when I tell you it was the Mike Douglas show. So if he's somewhere,
My
he'll be
gosh.
there. Look at Kimberly.
We
Okay, Kimberly, you just gave away your age because I will find it.
we are gonna get a copy of that. I promise you before the end of this year for sure. We definitely need that. Well, you know, another thing we were talking about in terms of how we learned back then was I feel like my generation. I know this is not true of all teachers, but most teachers said, "Take this home and memorize it."
Yep.
And you never actually learned how to memorize. I think we had a session on that. Maybe it's time for another one for me. Of course, the older I get, the less chance of that happening there
Let me
is.
tell
But
you, but we did it. They said do it, and we did it, but we
yeah.
could have told you how and why and where. And, she's absolutely right. My colleagues and I have no intentions of playing without music ever again. We're fancy. We play with our iPads and we get cute little stands and things like that. But I tell you, it is a skill, and I do sometimes have some things that I do try to put up in there.
But
But
and
it's
as I said, we when we were, I'm sorry, Robin, I didn't mean to
no, no,
interrupt,
no.
but when we were looking for a presenter from One Harp World, I have always, I'll start my intro maybe a little early. I've always been impressed with Rachel, not just as an performer, but as a teacher, because I met her years ago, years and years ago. She looks exactly the same. I'm just going to say I do not, but was at Interlock, and she was a very young faculty member, and she was teaching so many different things, everything from beginning harp and to juniors and intermediate campers, to coaching orchestra, to ensemble. She was just like your all around person there. But, you know, she is, her approach, Robin and I talked about this, to teaching is so holistic. And that's a word that is thrown around so much these days. But it is so important, I feel, just as Robin was saying earlier, the physical, the mental, the physical is really important. That's something I am now totally obsessed with. Don't ever ask me where to sit, or you'll have, I know June probably knows that, or Pam knows that, from where to sit at your harp, right? Because I'll spend your whole lesson talking about that. So, and I was just immediately impressed at her ability to connect with all these different students, all these of different levels, beginners just starting harp, and the advanced harpists that are there. So she also a very multi-talented performer. Loves to play with choir, but also plays with orchestra, her solo work, and you'll get to hear it today. You're in for a treat for sure. And she has many, on top of that, she has many original
Oh my
compositions.
gosh, yes.
Yeah, beautiful ones. You'll hear some of that today, but she has some music out there for organ and harp, which I feel is a very neglected group. You know, when I don't know about you, but it's either really hard or it's those not, I love them. The Sam Milligan ones are great, but I just found her works with harp and organ to be accessible, fulfilling. They were great. Hi, Dennis. Just getting on there. I'm going to go for the trivia because it's almost 4 o'clock and we have a lot to cover. I may have asked Robin says no, but because we're
Oh,
talking about teaching today, the question today is, who is basically the grandfather to us all? No matter who you studied with, there's a very good chance, but that's just part of the question because I know a lot of you know that. I want to know three of his or her grandfather, never mind, gave that away. Three, three of his students. So the trivia question for today is, who is the grandfather basically to us all, your teacher or your teacher's teacher, and three of his students. And without any further ado, we are presenting with great pride, Rachel Brandwein. Welcome, Rachel.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you so much for having me today. I truly feel really honored and privileged to join you. Thank you to MJ, to Robin and Katie and Christina, Virginia Harp Center, as well as the Atlanta Harp Center. So thank you so much for having me. This is so much fun. Um, I was asked to talk about some One Harp World stuff before we begin. My life partner and happens to be organist extraordinaire Aaron David Miller, and I are performing a program of our own compositions as well as arrangements at One Harp World. The aim of most of our repertoire is to be accessible in terms of technique, in terms of sound, in terms of approach, in terms of ensemble between the organ and harp. So most of it is, just some well-known tunes. We're playing the Ash Grove that Aaron arranged, and a really beautiful work that he composed in 2017 called Cross Currents. It's one of the most beautiful pieces I've ever written. He wrote it for us in a concert that we performed in 2017. Aaron arranged some 3 dances by Michael Pretorius, which are really beautiful and kind of Renaissance-y for harp and organ. Aaron is a master improviser, and so he's going to improvise on something. I'll leave that as a surprise in the middle of the program. And he and I last summer arranged, or 2 summers ago, the Corelli arrangement of La Folia, which come in theme and variations, bass, for organ and harp. It's really, really cool. We're very excited to share that for one of the first times. 2 other things that we're performing, Contemplation, actually, for harp solo that we arranged for harp and organ. And also we co-composed the last piece on our program is called Harp String Pipe Swing. We composed that a few years ago, and it's a really, really fun piece. So I do thank Isabel Perrin, Kathy Kinsel, and Lynn Asmus, and the whole organizing committee. It has been an extraordinarily large amount of work, is what I understand, and they are just so gracious and so wonderful for creating the space of community for international performers. So I feel so honored to be there. I'm also on the Young Composers Project Committee, so if you're there or if you can tune in, you'll get to hear several young composer harpists and their compositions that are featured in a series of events, a masterclass, a performance, and they get individual coachings from a couple of non-harpist composers that we chose specifically to be there. So anyway, One Harp World is just filled with amazing performers, teachers, and composers, and our program is just a drop in all of this community and all this wonderful music making. So that's what Aaron and I are doing there, however. So
Sorry, I'm talking with that. So Rachel is going to begin her presentation by playing something, and you tell them we usually have you play at the end, and we will, but she talked about why it would be good to start with this, and I think this will give you a good idea of everything about her. So
well, the title of my presentation today is Our Potential for Space, and you all have a handout, correct? A PDF somewhere or something that you're looking at.
Sorry to interrupt. If you don't, Katie, can you put that up? Katie's usually a step ahead of me. It maybe already be up there.
Sure. This could also be called, perchance, Our Quest for Space. That means a couple different things to me. It means space in our music. It also means space in our lives to grow inside, and therefore our music, and they each influence one another. I'd love to start with a piece that I found that helps me create a space for my presentation and to relax me as well, and music that I would love to share with you. This is called Give Me Your Hand by Rory Dallocayan. I performed for one of my former students' weddings a few years ago, and they had this piece for the sand pouring ceremony. And I played this everywhere. I played it at assisted living communities and for church and for different sorts of things. Tiffany Schaefer is the arranger. I add ornaments and fill out the chords and arpeggio, so it's easy to improvise on as well. But I love this piece. I hope you enjoy the melody as well. This is called Give Me Your Hand.
Beautiful. I actually feel like we should just listen to you play the whole time, but we will get on with the present. Oh, lots of claps. I don't know if you can see them. Lots of love there.
I love that tune. It just makes me feel so full and warm and lovely tune that is. Um, I am really, really excited to talk about this word space. This is about discovering where we're at in our music and in ourselves, and it's something that I love to help my students with. But I want to tell you something that I never ever teach what I don't practice myself. I am never going to help my students with a concept or ask them to practice a certain way without doing it actively myself. So I think that is really, really important because I feel like I'm always teaching myself, and what I teach myself, I can pass on to my students, and what they learn, they can pass on to me. So it's a real give and take here. I don't feel like I teach at my students, I teach with my students. And again, it's this really beautiful endeavor of giving and receiving, and in between lessons. So we all can relate that life can go really fast. We're asked to read fast, we're asked to drive fast, we're asked to speak fast, we're asked to walk fast, we're asked to do things fast all the time. And I don't like that. It makes me feel, I don't think any of us like that. It makes me feel really nervous, and then I get tense in my body, and then when I approach my work, I can't relax, and my space is being infringed upon if I let it be in that way. So going through the years, usually a word or two comes into my life a few months into the year, kind of as a meditation of sort. And the last few years, it's been this word space. I have really needed and wanted and craved to meditate upon this word and create space in my life. That means create space in my music. That means create space in myself to learn and to grow. So I would like to present to you the goal, maybe perhaps for today, is I'd like to suggest ways for you to be curious and explore how to create space in your life and within your music, and to be excited about this discovery. As I mentioned before, I'm doing this myself as well. I fall off the wagon so many times, and I start rushing, and I don't have a pulse sometimes in my playing, and I'm just craving this space to do more. So actually that first piece helped me kind of slide into the presentation, like creating space with my harp and within this community right here, right now with you. So I really appreciate, thank you for letting me play and get into that space myself. The handout that you're looking at, I've made into 3 sections or so. The first section starts with approaching the harp and daily practice, and the second section is learning and self-teaching. The third section is the couple tried and true words I'd like to offer you as perhaps something to carry away from today. The first section talks about an approach to creating space in our lives and within our music. Second section is how to implement it, or some suggestions on implementing this in our work and in our practice and in our daily lives. Third section is hopefully a result or a continuous way that we can keep working on to create more of what we want in our lives. So the first section, cultivate self-awareness. What is the result of cultivating self-awareness? I think it's that we know when is the right time to go work and practice, right? That is the result. What is our mental state when going to the harp? Where are we within our day? We can ask ourselves, what are we feeling? How can these elements affect our practice session? I don't know about you all, but sometimes I know I have work to do with the instrument, and I go at the wrong time of the day, or I go after a hard conversation, or I go before my other responsibilities, and I have these things on my mind, and it gets in the way. I get in my own way of my own work. So I think it's really important to listen to ourselves. What do we need when we go to the harp? What do we want to create? And how do we create space for the most opportunity for personal success? Again, the result of cultivating the self-awareness of how we feel when we go work is hopefully we can find our focus. and we can appreciate going to our instrument and working. I like to feel calm when going to the harp, or I love to feel excited about something I have to work on that day. I like to be curious. Oh, I really want to create this tone color or do this with my technique. How do I do that? So that, anyway, the first point here is just for us all. I think we can just, treat the harp and our work and our music as this, sacred endeavor that we all love and adore. So I think giving ourselves that space to do that is really important. Creating the physical space we want to practice in is very important as well. Perhaps you all know yourselves really well. I didn't know for a while that, maybe some clutter or this or that really distracts me. So we want to watch, do we want to practice and work in a place that's uncluttered? Do we want a few beautiful things that we enjoy looking at? Do we want to put our phone in the other room? We all can be on our phone and answer that text right away. That's infringing upon our space here, for our space for our music and our space for our growth. Or it can, if we let it. So do you want to put your phone in the other room? Do you want to make sure that your family members are gone? Or, in the other room, so you can have your own place to work and keep your focus. Do you want your pet out of the room? Do you want a cup of tea or coffee? Do you want to light a candle? Do you want some chocolate sitting there after a practice repetition? I love to light incense, so I sometimes light incense as a way to get myself into that lovely work mode. So cultivating self-awareness of how we feel when going to the harp, creating a beautiful and welcoming physical space we want to be in. That's worth being very aware about. And the last part in the approach of how to create space in our lives and in our music, create a practice plan. The result of that is that it takes the abstract nature of our practice, which can feel so sometimes repetitive and sometimes, again, abstract in our minds or our fingers. If we can write even just a few things down, it makes it more tangible, and it makes it, I'm not suggesting doing it every day if that's not your thing, but perhaps once a week or once every couple of days, write down what are your goals for your work, What repertoire are you working on? How long do you want to practice, or how long did you practice? And then reflection on our work. That's perhaps the most important, is going back and thinking about what we did and why, and what did we learn? What did we teach ourselves? What questions can we formulate to bring to our teachers? Reflection in this day and age is very, very much, in my personal opinion, it's not embraced anymore. We go to our phone right away, right? We turn on technology, we go to our computer. It's these things constantly outside of ourselves that are demanding our attention. What is most important is, in my opinion, is what's inside of us. What can we learn about ourselves? What can we teach ourselves from the stuff and the things that we have done? So self-awareness, physical space, practice plan. In my experience, and maybe how I've helped my students do this also, that's a nice approach, I think, to creating more breath and space in our music. The second section here is learning and self-teaching. I believe that we all can be our own teachers. I love being my own teacher. I really get excited because I love creative problem solving, and I love figuring out solutions to problems that I have or challenges that I have. And so I believe that we're all our own best teacher at times. I would like to suggest to you 3 words: listen, connect, and reflect. I teach a seminar class at St. Olaf College that I have had the good fortune to actually create. Those of us who teach first-year seminar classes create a course with specific intended learning outcomes. Mine is called the Creative Learning Workshop, but I've taught that for a few years now, and at the end of one term, a couple years ago, I was reflecting upon the term with my students, and these 3 words kept coming up. The term is embedded with a lot of self-reflection about how we learn and what our learning process is, and the goal of the course is really to empower my students that they can learn and they can teach themselves, and they can go off and, achieve their dreams and just be their own teachers. And so these 3 words kept popping up: listen, connect, and reflect. These words for me, and I carry these throughout my own life, they help create space and focus for me. And so the first one, listen. When we hear the word listen, sometimes we think about listening to other people and what they say. Of course, to be a good listener, we ask follow-up questions and we offer somebody our undivided attention. Sometimes we don't think about turning inward, listening to ourselves. What do we really need? What do we want? What do we want to create? What do we seek to create, right? So I have first here, using our imagination. I love this concept of using our imagination. And here's some questions that we can answer or ask for ourselves. What are our goals with our music? How are we going to practice to achieve our goals? How do we work with our teachers to achieve these goals? What do we want our music to sound like? So the word listen, we want to just really, really turn inward and what are we seeking to create here? Something that I love doing for myself and that I love teaching my students is, let's say they have a piece learned. You know, you have a piece learned and you're like, what do I do with it? How do I really make it how I want it to sound and what I want to express? I ask them, and I do this myself, I imagine a harpist who I enjoy watching or listening to. I imagine them on stage playing this piece, and I am in the audience. How is this piece going to sound? What is the music going to sound like? How is it going to communicate? What are the dynamics? What atmosphere is this harpist creating? And perhaps most importantly for me as an audience member, how does it move me, right? And so that's kind of what I mean by using our imagination. What do we really want to create? If you're a teacher joining us in our community today, you can go to your lessons and make sure to ask your students if they have any questions about what they've worked on and what their goals have been for the week. If you're a student of any age in our community here today, make sure that you come to your lessons with questions. Oh, I had a challenging time working on this and this didn't quite make sense, or I'm really proud of my work on this. Bring in your successes as well. Those are really important because we can listen to ourselves and then therefore get to know ourselves better. What do we want to create and what space do we want to create around the music? The second word, connect. Be proactive. So this is creative problem solving within what we're working on. What do we learn about ourselves when we just sat and listened, perhaps in silence or whatever we do? How can we apply this to achieve what we want and how to create music? What is our heart asking us to do in the music? And what is the music and the composer asking us to do? The three elements of the connect section here that I like to kind of think about for myself and my music and always kind of working on with students to help them get to know better. What does the composer want based on what they wrote? The dynamics, the phrasing. What does the music say? The form. What does this instrument get to create? This is perhaps one of my most exciting things. I absolutely adore the harp and I love the resonance and I love the magic that we can create from these strings. We're creating music which is in one sense so intangible, right? We're just listening to it. You can't touch it. You can't do anything with it with our hands and our arms, but it is so tangible on the inside. It can be so emotional and so powerful. So what is the harp capable of in the music? So we're connecting the composer, we're connecting the harp, and then lastly, we're connecting ourselves. What do we want to express and what means a lot to us in the music? So composer, harp, and self. Just a short story about my lovely piano teacher when I was in high school, Joanne Baker. She was very well known in the Kansas City area and kind of nationally with Mu Phi Epsilon, and she was absolutely an artist. She was so wonderful. When I'd take lessons with her, she'd say, no, Rachel, really listen, right? Italicized, really listen. And I didn't know what that meant as a 15, 16, 17-year-old, but I've reflected upon that my entire life, and I still reflect to this day what Mrs. Baker taught me. How do we really listen? So that goes back to listening, but also connecting the composer, the harp, and our own music. If we really listen to these things, what is it asking us to do and how to create it? The last element, reflect. So listen, connect, reflect. We all, as mentioned earlier, we all go through our days from time to time and not really think about what we did or what we learned. 2 questions I ask myself, kind of no matter what, even in really hard times, is what did I learn and how can I grow? or what can I learn and how can I grow, this puts tremendous value on our even just daily experiences. This has given value to hard times and challenging times. It also gives value to wonderful times that we love to experience. So the reflecting part of that, we can support ourselves with the quality of our self-talk. And I feel like this was introduced when I was a student. How do we talk to ourselves? What do we say when we're working? Are we creating a dead end to ourselves and making the space for growth and the space for our musical expression smaller by what we say to ourselves? Or are we practicing graciousness, positivity, saying encouraging and affirming statements to ourselves? This really, really helps us support our own learning in this positive way. And in my opinion and experience and what I've seen in my students throughout the years, it does create more space for growth. It creates more space for a loving atmosphere in which we can continue to explore ourselves and our music. Of course, the more senses we use when we learn, the better we learn, as science tells us. We're looking at the music, we're hearing it, we're analyzing it, we're saying things out loud. That also works with our positive self-talk as well. I'm just really, really convinced. We can also support ourselves by the words that we say. Instead of saying, oh, this is really hard passage, we can say it's challenging, because that invites more space for growth. Instead of putting up a dead end to our learning or what we're trying to accomplish, we can modulate what we're saying to help support ourselves better. The last point in the implementation of our work and how to create space in our lives, what is our limitless potential? I love this term. I kind of came up with this for myself in college. Of course, potential means that we all have space to grow. Sometimes it can mean, or we think it means that maybe there's a ceiling, because we hear of the phrase reach our potential. So sometimes that is like, oh, there's a ceiling there. But no, there's not. there's limitless. We all have so many ways to learn and grow in our entire lives, and we never stop doing this. There's something called a fixed mindset you've probably heard of, and there's something called a growth mindset. So if we all think of ourselves and our music and what we're creating with limitless potential instead of not, or a ceiling to it, we just feel much better about ourselves and our accomplishments, and we know that there's so much more to accomplish and learn and grow. I love to use something we've all heard, but I'll kind of express it in just the tiniest different way. Our glass or our cup is half full in our lives, and there's infinite space for growth. What I like to think of, though, is that, right, it's half full, and we keep adding and adding all of these beautiful things, but no one can take away what's already in there, right? All of our accomplishments, all of that hard work, all of the things that we do for ourselves, no one can ever take that away. So that's really, really important, because for me, that can help create space. What have I worked on throughout the years in getting to know myself and my music better? Well, sometimes when we feel frustrated, we feel like what we've already done is gone, or it's somehow taken away, but it's not. It's still there. We keep adding to it little by little. So I love that limitless potential kind of idea of supporting ourselves and our growth. The last section is hopefully there was a result or something that we can strive for. I love the words of release and relax, and I came up with that for myself in my own life, as well as my harp playing some time ago. There's 3 points here I'll address. At the harp, release and relax. A very close friend and colleague of mine, Sylvia Norris at Interlochen, kind of introduced the concept, the 3 Ps, right? Place, press, play. Or we can say place, prepare, play for harp playing. So we're sitting at the harp. What do? We place on the strings, we press, and we play, right? So after years of kind of reflecting upon that, what does play mean? If you ask a student to play, sometimes we get tight, right? We kind of make this manual motion. Close your fingers, so we're like, it's this forced action at times. That's not what play means. The action of playing the strings means releasing the strings and relaxing our bodies and relaxing our hands. That's what I think. So R&R, I just like to think of it, like rest and relaxation. R&R, the R&R is play. So place, press, play. And playing on the harp means releasing and relaxing. Try it yourself. Sit at the harp and play a chord. And hold your tension, and then try it again. Place, press, play, release and relax. And this potential energy that we can create when we relax at the harp, we relax our shoulders, we relax our back, we're putting all of our weight into the strings. For me, this helps create space because I'm not tense, I'm not coming to the strings with, tension in my fingers and tension in my body. It really, really changes the sound if we think of releasing and relaxing. Also, you can think of yourself being grounded and centered at the harp as we're doing this. When I sit down to practice, sometimes I'll even, I'll swing my arms and I like to think of the words grounded and centered. I very slowly, I bring back the harp. I'll even kind of draw space with my hands, this is this is mine, this is the music, this is the harp. This helps me hop in, kind of get into that space of creating and not feeling like I have to get somewhere really quickly, in other words, if that makes sense. I like to also think of the words calm and space when we're talking about relaxing. Away from the harp, R&R also works for our physical and mental well-being. I've had kind of a few things happen in my life the last several months that have been really challenging for me, and I get tight in my head and my neck and my body. I just get tight, and I loved when MJ contacted me about this presentation because I kind of knew what I wanted to talk about, but I'm up for a good challenge too. So for the last 3 weeks, I've literally carried these words around me. I want to talk about releasing and relaxing and breathing. And it's just been wonderful because I do feel more relaxed. I feel more basically, in control, and I feel more space in my life. So I'm actually really grateful for this opportunity to share what works for me away from the harp. Maybe yoga works for you, maybe Pilates, breathing exercises, prayer, meditation, exercise, your pets, maybe those help you do these things as well. I just love those two words, release and relax, because it's in our harp playing, and it's also in our mind, and it's also in our body. Lastly, what does this do for us? I think it creates space within our music and within ourselves. My dear Uncle Ed Rogers, who grew up in the 60s and 70s, evidently these are what they said back then: be who you are and be here now. I love that it allows us to be who we are at our instrument with all our creativity and all of our empowerment about what we're doing and our music and our beautiful music, and be here now in the present moment, not to be sucked into the fast pace of life and society that it asks us to buy into all these things. But we can create our own place for which we can breathe in our music and keep our focus. So the 5 words at the bottom, I'd like to suggest maybe think about these and maybe discover what they mean for yourself or maybe for your students. Listen, connect, reflect, release, and relax. These 5 words are how I'm still really working hard at it to create a place where I can breathe in my music and I can just go back to and relax and really connect with the music and with the audience. And I think we just all love this instrument right here. I believe that we are actually the instruments to our instrument. So it's our responsibility to let this sing, let it ring, let it speak, let it meditate, let it pray, let it shout, let it yell. I don't know what we're doing with it, but it's our responsibility to let this speak and let the music, come into the world and express ourselves and the music and the composer. So that I would like to thank for the space of this community today, which is absolutely incredible because you all are maybe all over the United States, MJ and Christina and Robin and Katie and Virginia and Atlanta Harp Centers, because your series is just wonderful in cultivating community and bringing together all sorts of different types of people, which is what our harp community is about, right? Is bringing just everybody together, no matter where we're from or what we do or what level we're at, or so.
Absolutely,
Thank
absolutely,
goodness for music.
Rachel.
Right?
This
Yeah.
is so good. This is so good. I want people, as you're thinking, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. You know, MJ and I will read them for you. But also, if you have any comments yourself about anything you have done to kind of incorporate and do what Rachel is saying, I'm hearing a lot of be present with what you're doing. What's interesting to me with listen, connect, reflect, release, and relax, it doesn't say practice. It doesn't say work hard. It doesn't say hurry up and learn the music. It doesn't say any of that. And so if any of you have done any of these things or have anything that you want to say, oh, I always make sure I do this before I practice. And if you have any questions, we want to really let you know that besides being this wonderful teacher at St. Olaf and with her own personal students, Rachel does coaching. She is online. Please go to her website. Her original compositions are there. She's got sound bites so that you can hear what they are. And I think they're really just great additions and original and new. It's so great to have these new composers and get fresh music and fresh ideas to be playing on the harp. But if any of you ever find that you have trouble, that you struggle, that when you get to your instrument, you're like, and everything is just so tight, I think a coaching session with Rachel will really help you find the tools to find what kind of questions and what kind of ways you can approach your own music. And I love what she said about, let the harp say what it wants to say. Oh, you can't even see the harp. This one.
Listen, we need to listen to our instruments, listen to it resonate. It tells us exactly what to do. Our instrument tells us when to end pieces, right? When to muffle. If we just keep listening to it, I really believe in that concept.
So what I was thinking of, Rachel, while you were talking, was so young for this level of wisdom. I mean, as a teacher, I never stopped learning, but it took me a long time to kind of be where you are at this young age, and all this wonderful advice and sharing with, as you're right, a community of everything: students, new students, students that have been at it for a while, and teachers. I think there are a couple things that really struck me, and one was I am guilty of neglecting reflection. I have to say, like, I'll be done and it'll be like, okay, at 11:30 I have to do this, and I jump up and I do that. I forgot to ask Robin who we're having next month, whatever it is. And that is one thing I'm really hoping to carry from today is, if I have to be done at 11:30, then I need to stop practicing before 11:30, so that I create time for reflection, because I don't think reflection, as you were talking about, in this day and age, is a natural response. It's kind of natural to kind of get the information and move on, and get the information and move on. That is what all social media is about. That is what all advertising, which is with us all the time, is about. So I'm hoping I carry that wisdom from you into my practicing moving forward. And I also, one thing that struck me that really hit home was, as a student, you need to feel comfortable and give yourself permission to go to your lesson and say, hey, I did this really well this week. Let me play this for you. Or I need help with this. I think that's another thing Robin and I were talking about at the beginning. And by the way, I see a couple people have come in late, you can watch the replay. The replay will be up on the Atlanta Harp Center website. Sometimes I watch it just because I need to hear it again because I'm old. But and it always helps. Repetition is a good thing. But you are paying for service. I don't mean that. There's also a relationship, but you have to feel comfortable within that relationship, maybe kind of like a therapist in a way, because many of us that have a teacher have a long-term relationship. You see them every week or every other week, and you want to make sure you feel comfortable saying, hey, I really need to ask you about this, because that was not sort of part of the old guard. You went in, as Robin said, you sat down and you did what you were told. So those two things really, really struck me, Rachel. So
Absolutely. June Caldwell says that she finds many of her students do not really hear what they are playing. They are concentrating on getting notes right. And when we hear that, on getting notes right, we have to think as teachers how much of that is kind of our responsibility too. We want them to get it right, but we gotta leave that space to make it not be the end of the world if you don't. Listening to the music we are making is so important, and these ideas are so helpful. Thank you. So it is true, and it is encouraging that we start to say to our students, listen. I have
The
my
comments
students
are
say,
coming fast and furious. All wonderful comments. Do you see them? Anne Marie, I'm a very intermittent player and practicing is my R&R. That's wonderful. From the rest of your profession and personal life. That is separate from the harp. Awesome. When I don't take time for the harp, I find even my professional life is more stressful. Yes, wonderful. And I don't think I progress at the harp as quickly as other people because my practice isn't rigorous. Oh, but I think we've learned today that you do, in fact, and maybe not the ways you're thinking, but you are progressing in ways that maybe other players that are playing more notes may not be. You know what I'm saying, Rachel? Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
yeah, start to figure out what does progress mean to you. And so Rachel gave you, she said, well, you might not do it every day, that'd be me, but maybe once a week, write, what are your goals? Write down, what are you doing? What do you want from that? You can only know if you've gotten it if you really identify what are you doing. Amy says, when I actually remember to breathe, relax, yoga or whatever, when I sit at the harp, it goes much better. And she loves the concrete PDF that is a reminder of that. And that's another reason why we're so excited to be able to do these hangs, because we all need these reminders.
Absolutely. And Kimberly, thank you. Kimberly agreed we need to have a good relationship with your teacher, and also that your teacher teaches a style that matches your learning style. Whenever I give a trial lesson, I just say, you have to find a fit, and if I'm not the fit for you, that's fine. And which is why I give a trial lesson. This is kind of how I teach. I don't know if other teachers do. How do you approach that, Rachel, when a student calls and says, I want lessons? What's
Oh,
your approach?
absolutely. I just give them a complimentary lesson. Sometimes if it's a St. Olaf prospective student, I'll give a couple, and absolutely go. It's totally, I trust whatever goes on. And if I'm not, or the experience isn't for them, that's absolutely fine. It's just has to be, as we all know, it has to be really connecting and just affirming. And yeah, the learning styles and everything has to be a match. Mm-hmm.
And Tracy says, I've been away from my harp for a few years and I've been reconnecting with it for these purposes, R&R alone. And I think I am also able to approach it from a different mind state now that I did before. I don't have the expectations that I did. Good for you, Tracy. Yeah,
Awesome.
it's
Awesome.
especially, yeah, those of us that are, I mean, even at my age, I think I should be able to play, scintillation, which is not going to happen, but I could do it. I played it in college. So I totally hear you then. Sometimes we put that on ourselves. Nobody's asking me to play that. Nobody even wants to hear it, most likely. I would say that it's a fabulous piece, but I'm not giving, I guess I'm just trying to relate to it. You really have to give yourself space. I've really, really enjoyed today because I think this comes at a perfect time for me, something that I've been dealing with my own playing as I, move away from professional career per se. That makes sense.
And then honor where
Absolutely.
every one of us is at. We have to honor where
Right.
we're at. I'm not where you're at. You're not where I'm at. We're not where anybody else is at. But our path is unique and it's really, really valuable.
And
So
I think by all these different classes and coming to all these different things is so important because you are searching and seeking for that spot that is yours. And I do love all of our new composers because they just give us so many new and different things to look at. And I just want to thank you, Rachel. This has been so, so wonderful. And we are all looking forward to what you're going to play. I know you said you're going to do one of your original works. I also know I really want you all to go to the website. I went on it, of course, because we're looking to do this. And I'm like, I've got to order this. I've got to order that. Look how beautiful these pieces are. So tell us about your piece.
Oh, wait, actually, before
Oh,
that, if you don't
trivia.
mind, and before you start playing trivia, how could you forget? Sandy Beck, this is proof that going to outside conferences and things, because Sandy said she just had a discussion about this at Harp Gathering, and what does she get from it? A mug. Can you believe that? A Hanging with the Harp mug. See what you can do by you go to the One World Harp Conference. Who knows? Maybe you'll get a mug. But seriously, she said that they talked about this, and her answer was Hasselman was the grandfather to us all, and I think she named I can't go back, but Renier, Salcedo, and Grangeny. And
Yes.
there are more than that. There's also Tournier, which Rachel picked before we got on, Lily Laskin, and Jamais. So he really was, chances are, whoever you're studying with, they had some connection with Hasselman's, which I think is absolutely cool. So I didn't mean to interrupt, but Sandy, get your information. Katie, should she contact you, or will you contact her? Do you have her information?
Yeah, so I probably have your information from your registration, but you can email me info@atlantaharpcenter.com with your best mailing address, and I can get your Hanging with the Harp mug sent to you.
And you get one too, Rachel. Don't despair. Just
Thank you. Cup of tea and coffee. I'll go for it.
there you go.
Fill the
Okay.
space.
So without further ado, yes, tell us about your piece, and then Rachel will take us out with her beautiful music.
Oh,
Thank you.
sure. This is a piece I wrote a couple years ago. Again, with my quest for finding space in my life and in my music. This started out as a harp duet for a couple of dear adult harp students. I actually prefer it as a harp solo. This is called La Valse dans le Bois, which means the waltz in the wood. And I just appreciate, again, the opportunity here. Thank you so, so much for valuing community and for just inviting us all in today. And it's just absolutely lovely. So I hope you enjoy La Valse dans le Bois.
Thank you so much, Rich. You're getting lots of love on the screen.
Oh, thank you so much.
Your
Thank
words
you
of
so much.
wisdom, and hopefully some of us will see you in Canada soon.
And
I
can we
hope
have the name of that again so we can go buy it?
sure. That's called La Valse. It's French, La Valse, Valse, Don Le Bois. It's on my website. There's a recording of it and actually a video. It's probably what late beginner level, maybe early intermediate, late beginner. So
So Misty just put that up for us. Thank you,
oh,
Misty.
thank you, Misty.
And thank you all for being here.
Thank
We'll
you,
see you
everybody.
next month. And thank you so much, Rachel.
Yeah, thank you so much, MJ, and thank you so much, everybody, for coming today. It's so
Great,
much
great, great.
appreciated.
And thank you,
Okay,
Katie.
okay.
More,
Bye
more.
bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.